Farming, as we know it, may be changing.
Probably about nearly up to a metre deep in the middle there.
Flooding and extreme weather are becoming more and more common.
100 tractors to central London. One by one they left in convoy, British flags flying high.
And many farmers are unhappy with the lack of government support.
But united behind one message: no farmers, no food, no future.
Like many of us, I spend very little time in the countryside. But if I want to find out more about this increasingly important topic, I need to go where the farmers are. So I'm starting my journey here at the Lincolnshire Show, a renowned agricultural event with over 130 years of history. This county produces around an eighth of the UK's food, but climate data providers like XDI Systems have identified Lincolnshire as the area at most risk to the effects of climate change. Agricultural representatives have been taking notice.
We've all suffered very badly with adverse weather conditions in the since October last year. And the weather patterns is very difficult to predict, but there seems to be a general pattern for it to be getting a little bit warmer, but we're having more extremes of weather, long droughts in the summertime and then very long wet periods. So something is certainly happening in the weather worldwide. We can adapt, we can change the crops that we grow, we can put irrigation systems in to combat the droughts. It is part of farming trying to work with the weather rather than against it.
It's difficult to directly attribute the effects of climate change to the weather that we experience today. However, the statistics on this do seem to speak for themselves. A BBC report shows that the month of March this year was amongst the 20% top wettest Marches in recorded history. However, that was nothing compared to the month of April, which was the 6th wettest April on record in 187 years. And it's not just the rain that's getting on top of farmers in recent years as well. Back in 2022, there was a record for England's highest temperatures at 40.3 degrees. Where was that recorded? In the town of Coningsby, right here in Lincolnshire.
So my name's Tim Allen. I'm part of the farm management team for Patrick Dean Limited and Auburn Farming Limited, a farm based south of Lincolnshire. So the standard crops that we produce are cereals, so wheat, barley, sugar beet, occasionally binding peas. The specialist crop on this farm is without doubt potatoes, and that is where I spend most of my time, spend most of my expertise.
Potatoes are a high energy and water usage crop, and farms like Patrick Dean pride themselves on being environmentally friendly in their methods.
So these are Georgina, destined for Tesco's finest.
Using the latest innovations, the farm aims to create as little waste as possible, no matter the cost.
This is seen as the most efficient way of applying water, so it's effectively, this tape is perforated. It's got small perforations every 20 centimetres, and it just slowly emits water directly into the soil, so it's effectively going directly to the root of the crop. So the tape costs about £700 per hectare, which year on year is a huge cost. Then these header pipes, I think they're about £160 per pipe. Valves, lay flat, it's more infrastructure, more costs that's needed to keep developing it all, really.
The farm uses a variety of renewable energy sources and went even as far as to build their own water supplies during droughts.
So this is the most recent reservoir that we've built. It's one of 5 that we've got on the estate. The level of investment needed for something like this in the region of £500,000 just for this reservoir. As I say, we've got numerous across the estate, different shapes and sizes. When we put this reservoir in, there was funding available. Currently, I don't think there's a deal of funding available. There are grants being released as years go on.
This is the local drainage board here. Just cleaning out.
And enough financial support is exactly what seems to be missing in recent years. Flooding like this is both incredibly damaging and expensive to deal with, not to mention the huge dent it makes to sellable produce. The spokesman for a Lincolnshire drainage authority believes farmers should be rewarded for taking the hits.
Well, with those severe storms we've had in the last 6 months, storms Babette and Henk, there was a lot of farmland underwater for a serious length of time, and I think it's only appropriate that where farmers see that they're compensated for it, because by storing that water they're actually saving towns and properties from flooding further downstream whilst they're losing their income, so that would be more appropriate.
We would very much like to see a full programme of ongoing support to farming businesses and other rural businesses linked to farming. We're not really getting a lot of that in any of the manifestos. We are a rural affair, and that's all we are these days. It's not a massive, we don't always feel that agriculture is taken that seriously.
Meeting government demands whilst making a profit is putting huge pressure on many farmers. Of course, farming unions will try to fight for more support for those struggling. Peter Gadd is a regional board member for the NFU.
I also represent all of the crop growing members of the National Farmers Union in the whole of the Midlands region, from the Welsh borders across to the Lincolnshire Wolds and down to the Wash. So that's a huge number of growers that I also represent from the National Farmers Union perspective. Smaller businesses, unless they've got many or highly returnable income streams from diversified business, are going to really struggle. And yes, that is a real threat, that the smaller farms are beginning to disappear from the landscape. And of course, they're the people, along with the other larger farmers of course, that actually do the work of the government to attain their environmental ambitions and obligations. If they're not there, who else is going to do it?
Is the NFU going to continue its drive to achieve net zero by the year 2040?
Look, net zero is an aspiration, it's an ambition. Government have other environmental targets they're obligated to on the world stage. So I think perhaps first of all we need to look at how we help government establish some of those other obligations before we get too tied up with net zero. But yes, it has to be thought about, and in the longer term, yes, we'll do our part along with every other industry. But just remember, national security and food security go hand in hand, and people have to eat. Sometimes a compromise has to be taken.
Food security is an issue that's been raised in light of net zero targets, suggesting government is too focused on environmental issues and not on developing food production. I'm travelling deeper into the county to find smaller independent farms to see how opinions may differ.
I'm John, mixed farm in Lincolnshire. We do bed and breakfast finished pigs, and we farm about 300 acres of land. We were on flood alert for a good lot of the winter. We kept getting messages that we were in imminent danger of flooding. We had to be prepared to evacuate. How you quite evacuate a few thousand pigs is hard, but we were told that that might happen. And I do care for the environment, and I think all farmers do. You know, I think all farmers care for nature, care for the environment, and they want to do the best they can for it. But it's got to be working alongside making a profit in farming. It can't be at the expense of that, because it's not sustainable for farmers to keep doing that at the expense of not making money.
So it seems from a business perspective, many smaller farmers simply cannot afford to make net zero a priority. But if not the issue of climate, what other issues are there when looking to the future?
I think as an industry we struggle with trying to get young entrants into the industry. And what it means is that farmers are ever ageing, you know, that it is an ageing population.
I think that's one of the biggest problems facing the industry. I think the average farmer is about my age, which is 60-ish. There's not many young people coming into the industry, and even sons, daughters of farmers have found other businesses to go into. sooner than just take on the family farm, and the small family farm are dying out of existence.
What's the short-term needs for farmers in order to get by these next couple of years? What would you like to see changed?
Well, I would like to see an enabling policy coming from the new Treasury, something that enables farmers to invest, helpful tax breaks to do that. We need money for research and development in the short term through applied science. Tax breaks that would allow that sort of investment in infrastructure and labour. A scheme also that would allow sufficient staff to come in from abroad, provide sufficient labour under the seasonal agricultural wages scheme. And just a general can-do policy that they want us to provide for this country. We want to do that, but we need fairness in the supply chain as well.
And I think it's a sad way the industry is going, but to be honest, I cannot see how that can be turned around.
We live in hope, and we hope that they are very positive, but just at the moment we're not seeing a lot of positivity.
And that may be the biggest takeaway there is from this journey. What do farmers have to be positive about? A changing climate? Food shortages? Expectations to change or get left behind? It's no wonder the next generation are turning away from it. Humanity's oldest industry is struggling to adapt, and if we don't find it the help it needs soon, well, who knows how things will look like in the future.